Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new Fearless edition of Hotline League. That's right, we're fearless all year long, just like Riot Games. We have no fear. You can't scare us. You can't make us afraid of anything because
We're brave.
Yes,
This is
exactly.
the Brave cast.
That's why I think the next step, we went from fearless. The next step is ultimate bravery. That's how we need to do League of Legends eSports. All right, either way, really excited to be here. We're doing this one day later because I was literally on a plane yesterday from my former roommate Sloane's wedding. Congratulations to Sloane for her new marriage. But I do want to introduce my co-host here, none other than Cubby. Cubby, you're on assignment somewhere. Where are you?
Yes,
Muted.
on the road.
Oh,
I'm not on assignment yet. I'm on assignment for the weekend. I have a bachelor party this weekend. But currently in Arizona, visiting my folks who are also out here for a couple days. My birthday's in a bit, so get to knock out some time with them and sneaking around to golf and some food too. So, yeah, lucky I can do the podcast from here and excited to dive into what we have for tonight.
And what's very funny is before the start of the show, we spent quite some time working to make sure Kangas's audio and video got resynced just for Cubby's audio and video to get out of sync as soon as we start the show. So, but you know what? That might be something we have to suffer through because he's in a hotel room somewhere. So, and he's laying on a bed seductively. So, this is what we're going to have to deal with this episode.
I'm just happy I'm not the problem child right now.
Yeah. Well, it's sometimes worth troubleshooting when somebody's like at their home setup. But basically, I don't know if I've ever done a show where somebody was in a hotel room, either myself or someone else, and we didn't have some sort of complicated tech issue. So that's the way it goes.
Keyword right now, it's gonna be fine.
What is the keyword? You cut. I think the other thing is your
right now.
Might be kind of
it's gonna be fine.
Okay. All right, great.
It's going to be fine. We're going to fix the issues. They're going to magically fix themselves.
Well, the great news is
2 hours from now to see how out of sync you truly are.
Yeah, you don't have static issues, which we were dealing with earlier. So, you know what? If as hopefully everything gets figured. Either way, we also have special guest Kangas joining us today. Kangas, how you been? You were also just traveling. I think all three of us are have been on planes or whatever this past week.
Yeah. So I was just in Vegas because there was a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament that I went and actually got to go compete in. So I've been doing broadcasting for Konami on tournament circuits, but they didn't have broadcast coverage. So I actually got to go compete. It was really fun. Got my ass kicked. Went 4-4 total record, so 50-50 win rate. But it was just awesome to get to hang out with like a lot of the pros because I interview those guys. I see them all the time when they're competing. I actually got to sit across from a couple and they wiped me. But it's cool to actually be a competitor for once. Also, somebody in chat said if this is the Fearless episode now, do we have to change hosts every episode? So Cubby,
every call.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to look at somebody else next week.
Yes, exactly. I think that makes sense. I think the way we do Fearless as a show is we would just do every call we have a new guest co-host. So you would have to lead up to the
so
first
it's
call.
my seat that goes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
No, it is. It is very funny because I feel like you and I both ended up when did you start doing all this Yu-Gi-Oh stuff? Because I feel like maybe it's around the time I started doing all the Magic stuff.
I think it was you might have beaten me by a couple months, but I started doing it in early 2023. It was February of 2023 that I first got an online thing because it came out with the Master Duel game on Steam. And so that was the 1 year anniversary of that game is the first time that I got to do any shows with Riot with Konami. And then since then it's just kind of snowballed to be bigger and bigger opportunities. But when did you start with Magic? Was that early 2023? I think it was late 2022, right?
Yeah, I got invited to play it for the first time at TL in the middle of 2022. Okay. And then started going to events. I went to my first one kind of incidentally because it was right next to, it was literally in Salt Lake City around the same time as the Brandon Sanderson event that I was going to. And then really it was in the beginning of 2023 where I started going full force and started going to a lot of events. Especially the middle of that year, I went to Command Fest in Anaheim with Laughing Dragon. So it is very funny that both you and I have kind of fallen into the card game world, the TCG world.
It's the future.
Around the same time. Yeah.
But okay, one thing I will say, you have definitely done a better job of getting in touch with the Riot card game. I still have not even touched one of those cards, so
Yes.
I need to sit down and actually play that game at some point. It looks so cool.
Did you hear the rumors of the name? They've not told me this, so I can just talk about it. Riftbound, I guess, got copyrighted, and so people think that it's going to be called Riftbound. And so, but yeah, I mean, here's the thing: we've had Riftbound, if it's going to be called that, designers at my Magic events. So you just need to start going to my Magic events, and then maybe that's how you'll get
rub the right elbows. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, regardless, glad you had a good time there. I had a pretty good time in Florida. Also went to Tampa and got to hang out with my buddy Jordan, who is the podcast editor. She basically releases the podcast every normally Tuesday mornings. This time it'll be Wednesday morning. And got to play, speaking of Magic, to play Magic with her and some of her friends, and so that was very fun. But yeah, hopefully that is the last time I go to Florida for a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I had a good time, and people were friendly, and it was a good vibe. So, but good to be back for now. We'll be going to Santa Clara next month for some Magic stuff. So if you're in Santa Clara, you want to go play Magic, come to MXP. Anyway, let's talk about League of Legends. So we got fucking wrecked. There were a ton of comments that were saying on the last episode, like, this is so funny to go watch these arrogant North Americans, all because we were like, yo, we beat EU, we're so good, blah, blah, blah. And then Team Liquid ends up being the 5th team out of the 4 and just gets booted out. And, I joked on Twitter that this was me making the monkey's paw wish of, I hope Team Liquid could beat EU. And it's like, well, they beat EU, but at what cost? So it was a really interesting first stand. We can talk about that, and maybe people want to call in about Team Liquid or North America, etc. We also have official word from Riot Games that Fearless Draft is going to be the thing that goes forward through the rest of the year. And boy, was I wrong about this. This is something Riot would have never done years ago. They would have never made such a dramatic change in the middle of the season. It used to take, in some cases, years of fans and critics like myself going through and saying, like, hey, we need to change the format for Worlds. We need to do this, do that. And I was really, really surprised to see this. In fact, I think maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, maybe 4, we did a poll on the show that made me start to get kind of nervous, where we asked people in Twitch and YouTube chat, like, are you not going to watch more League later on this year if it's not Fearless? And it was a huge percentage of people. I don't know if it was a majority, but it was maybe 30-40%, if I recall. I have to go back and look at the episode. Said that they were not going to watch as much, or maybe they weren't going to watch any. And that made me very worried, even though I know it's not the most scientific polling. So I wonder if Riot started to feel the same way, where it was like, okay, we need to make this pretty dramatic change. They just don't normally change the format on this level in the middle of the year, and unless there's like a pandemic or something happening. So it was pretty wild to see. Really excited to see that they listened to the audience. And yeah, I mean, I was both wrong about Fearless and how much people would enjoy it. I've had this same conversation with a ton of other creators and personalities in the space. I know, Cubby, you were a little skeptical based off of what you'd seen in NACL. And so we were wrong about that. And then I was wrong about Riot actually being down to change this. So maybe I'm just a fraud. I don't know.
I mean, I was wrong too, to be fair. I thought that this would be something that would happen next year and not just be like blanket canvas across everything now this year. It was a honestly pretty wild and monumental change from Riot. I really was not expecting that.
Yeah. You know what I'm realizing is it's actually your Discord that's delayed, because we'll see your camera is ahead. We'll see you start talking, and then your Discord starts to come through. So I don't know. It might be worth a disconnect and reconnect over on Discord. What did you
troubleshooting live? Let's go.
I gotta start pulling calls soon anyway. So
That's fair.
True.
Kangas, what did you think of all that?
Yeah, so I don't remember if I was on the episode where we were talking about that, but I remember hearing about that and like hearing the discussion. And I was kind of on your page where I didn't expect it, or I guess Cubby's page, where I didn't expect it to happen this year. I thought it would happen next year for sure. I thought it was like positive enough response. Yep, this is going to be the future. But yeah, this is like a wild thing to do in the middle of the year. I know that I forgot who it was. I saw some like coaches talking about this on social media specifically. I mean, like, this is kind of unfair when you look at like roster building and decisions for signing players for the team organizations, because you're signing them expecting one rule set and now you're getting a different rule set later in the year. So that type of stuff can come up with this, but overall, I think it's a cool change. I am a fan of the fearless drafting system, so I think it's cool, but it is a little odd to have it like make a big announcement saying what the format's going to be for the whole year, and then now everyone has to, or a lot of like regions have to change their split 2 format or split 3 format because it did not account for the fearless system anyway. So there's just like so much more work for everyone to do now, for I think a positive change, but it's just kind of, that's why it was surprising that it happened.
Yeah.
Well, hey, on the bright side, no one knew what the actual format was in the first place anyway, so you know, it's all right.
That is actually true.
LTA tweeted out like 2 days ago that there's going to be like some news, right? Like,
they're definitely changing the format, because there's no world in which the best, like, it has been somewhat annoying to me to see a bunch of people be like, and of course LTA will not be able to do this because they're best of ones, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if they'll do, you know, some best of ones and then go into best of 3, or if they'll switch over to fully best of 3. I earnestly have not heard what the changes are going to be, but I definitely know, I mean, they should have probably been a little bit more blunt. Yes, we will be changing the format so that we can incorporate fearless draft in some way.
Well, here, I'll be the good broadcast representative. The official wording was the LTA will be making some changes for the rest of the year to better incorporate feedback from Split 1 and Fearless Draft now that it's here to stay. So stay tuned to socials to find out more soon. So who knows what soon means? I would assume hopefully sometime this week we get some word on that. But yeah, it's looking like, there's going to be change.
There's going to be a change for sure,
yeah. So we'll see what that is, but I mean, this might be a win-win for LTA fans, who many of whom did not like best of 1, and many of whom wanted fearless. So you kind of will end up, the fearless change will force some, you know, as presumably best of 3 stuff into the split. So we'll see how that goes. You know, I don't know if we'll end up taking a call on it, but if somebody does want to call in, Wild Turtle did retire. That was an interesting thing that happened. Besides that, there was also some conversation around Spawn leaving the Team Liquid team during the event because he had like a family thing. He talked about it a little bit, and Team Liquid made a post about it. So I don't know if we have a call about that, but did just want to reference that. I've talked to TL a little bit about potentially getting Spawn on in a future episode. I think he wasn't available for this one, but hopefully we can get him on, because I know that this has been people have been trying to figure out for a little bit, especially because he's popped in and out of some of these international events. So
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. There's that. And then and we don't especially out of respect to Kangas, who has been at times part of the broadcast, we don't tend to talk too much about EWC on the show, and I don't think we will going forward in this episode, since I tend to be more critical of it. But I do want to say, the one thing I did want to say on this is, like, regardless of your opinions on the involvement of EWC or all that, and where you stand on the ethics questions and all that, one thing that is fucking crazy to me is that we're going to have MSI end, and then basically, like, I think 3 or 4 days, and then EWC begin, which will be a 12-team, I believe, 4-day long event. So, you know, let's pretend that it wasn't even run by EWC. This was like run by the ghost of IPL or, you know, MLG or something along those lines. Like, I would still be saying this is fucking crazy, especially because they like within the same week as this, they put out an official post on the LEC Twitter, which said, until now, Scrim streams have been restricted globally. This is a global rule. That's why I reference it despite it being LEC, to prevent oversaturation in an already packed calendar and to keep key matchups feeling special. And while I understand a lot of people have wanted more international events, and I've been happy with, First Stand. I'm sure we can do like a First Stand retro at some point in time on this episode, or maybe next week. It is so funny to me that like they're like, oh yeah, we have all these international things. We're trying to keep these matchups feeling special, but we're just gonna run back one international event right after the other in the same week. I think that is fucking wild. So yeah.
Two things to jump off of there. One, the LEC is very different than Riot Global, as we're all aware. So that's like an LEC statement compared to a global.
But it was an LEC statement where they talked about how this was a global restriction.
Oh,
so that's why I mentioned it, and that's why
Oh.
LTA had to come out and say like, hey, we're going to temporarily allow this because there's a global restriction on teams being able to participate in this stuff. I mean, this even goes back to like the Bjergsen Mr. Beast thing or whatever. Like they heavily, for lack of a better word, control and prohibit, anything that appears to be pro play or interactions between two professional teams. And so, yeah, it is a global rule, and this is a global event and all that stuff. So yeah.
Sure. Well, the second thing is I would take that to the alternative, which was last year, where it's just in the middle of the frickin' split, and we had to take, like a week or two off of like the just regular split in order to accommodate that in the schedule. This is still crazy.
Honestly, you're not wrong.
It's way better than last year.
You're right. It's gonna feel so weird, like having that be back to back. But I would rather have that than have the break in the middle of the split. I think you're actually 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm Asian in the chat says it's not that global if LTA could choose to waive it, though. No, I mean, LEC is doing that too. I think what is happening is they are getting sign off from the global teams at Riot to allow it. So it is still a global rule. Global prohibits this type of thing, and they get to be the ones to decide whether or not that's going on. Essentially, what this means is that, is it Artem? I think that's how you say the name of the LEC commissioner, or Mark, if you're talking about LTA. They cannot choose to just be like, scrim streams are just open and allowed all the time now. They have to go and sort of, my understanding is, plead the case to global to get the stuff going on. That's why it's a global rule. So global rule, global tournament. Yeah, I think the timing is weird. Also, what's crazy is I just, as you were saying this, Kangas, I remembered, so last year, the EWC stuff took place partially during the 4th of July week in the US because Riot has every year they've had a week off.
Yep.
And it was really annoying because in the past they were good about still running games during this time, and then I think even before the EWC thing they would just put a random break there because it was like, well, we're all going to go take a vacation in the middle of the summer, which is not how sports leagues tend to work. And I'm as a byproduct of this, I'm just realizing MSI is going to be during that week off. So it's fascinating. In the past, they did not. Yeah, because I'm going to be in Canada for 4th of July, which will be interesting. I don't know how they're feeling about Americans right now. I might be pretending to be European or something, but but I am. I guess they've decided that like now instead of taking a week off, they're actually just going to run a global event. Riot is so crazy. You never know what they're gonna get up to. So, yeah, it's an interesting time. So there's been a lot of news this past week. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that might be it. But if chat or anybody else, either of you guys can remember of anything that's happened last week that I've missed, or big topics of discussion, we can certainly get into that over the course of the show.
We talked about NA beating EU at First Stand, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah. That had happened. Okay, that had happened last week.
I thought the tournament just ended after that too.
Yeah, that's true. That was
it. I'm pretty sure they stopped streaming after that series, right?
It was a sprint of a week anyway. I mean, we definitely weren't expecting TL to like win or lose to the.
You're mega cutting out now, Cubby. I'm not sure
it's
why.
Getting worse.
After that first week.
Maybe we can get you to disconnect and then reconnect.
If
you're in, it might also be shoddy internet. If that's the case, we might go webcamless for you and just try to get all the internet into your Discord. So we'll figure it out.
Can you take a screenshot of him as he is though, and then just put that up?
That's a good idea. Yeah,
that'd be perfect. Yeah. Hold that pose, Gubby.
I'm taking the snipping tools in here. Okay. All right, we're gonna do that.
Perfect. Perfect.
And then I'll load that in. So we'll figure that out.
That's a
Okay.
That's a weird face.
Yeah.
Enjoy
So
that.
here's what we'll do. As you
It's your
go
face,
grab
brother.
the first caller, Cubby, we'll have you both disconnect from Skype and also disconnect from disconnect from Discord and rejoin it. And then we'll have you work that way. So that's what
Oh,
we'll
this
do.
is incredible. This looks great.
Yeah.
Can you send me that photo, Travis? Actually,
Yeah,
I want to frame that.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. So off goes Covey to solve that, and now it's great because no one will even notice that we've replaced him.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'll send this over to you now. Enjoy this. You can use it for other purposes.
I'm gonna get a lot of mileage out of that.
Sorry, podcast listeners. Cubby's just very enthusiastic in the screenshot, and in a way that I don't know if we've ever seen him be enthusiastic.
He's got crazy eyes, man.
Yeah.
I'm crazy for talking about NA League of Legends when it comes to beating EU and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We beat the finalists of first 10. That's good.
Do we have our caller here?
Yeah. What topic do we want first? I have a TL topic or a fearless topic? I think
we can start with TL and kind of get the sad boys conversations out of the way. Off Cubby goes. Thank you to Big Angry Hobo for gifting a sub to Travis Gafford is my hero. I don't even know if that account gets used. It used to be in there. But I thank you, Big Angry Hobo. PP Doc gifted a sub to C Sears. Numi Goes Rars has subbed for 33 months. And then Liberia with the 67 months. That's crazy. Shiny Froki with 82. Over on YouTube, we got some people who are subbing. Big Angry Hobo also dropped a 19-month YouTube bomb there. And then Michael is a new member. Thank you for coming at TGI Associate. Fun fact, I uploaded to, I've never done something like this before, but I uploaded to the members only part of YouTube, of my YouTube channel. If you're a member, you can see this. A video simply titled Travis Gafford Gives an Unconventional Wedding Speech. And it is an accurate video of somebody recording me giving a wedding speech that I gave a month ago. So if you want to see,
proud of that one. I was on that episode. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to see me, if you want to see a wedding speech that I gave in person, and I think it went really well. That's why I uploaded it. You can go see it. It's members only on YouTube. All right. Our first caller of the night is here. DrProfSgtMr J. Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from like the Seattle, Washington area.
Seattle, Washington. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so my take is I think TL should stick with their roster through Split 2, and they should base their decision on roster changes depending on if they make MSI and perform well subsequently. I have a little bit more based on that, but yeah, that's kind of my take in general.
So essentially, you're saying like, because a lot of people are like, oh, they should make a change now if they want to do better at Worlds. You're saying no, give them another international shot before they decide if they want to pull the emergency brakes or not.
Yeah, I think essentially the measurement should be based on even just making it to that international slot in the first place. But assuming that they do, it should be based on like how well they do there. Yeah.
Okay, so give Umpty another shot is kind of what I'm hearing, because that's a big name that a lot of people are throwing around. Is like, if Team Liquid's going to make a change, probably would be Umpty. Despite at this international event, let's be honest, like there were a couple of individual players that were having a really rough series here and there. So
yeah. So a few things that I was going to add is, one, we have to keep in mind this tournament had a major change before, but TL had experienced like the lane swaps right before. They had their identity was wrapped around that from the last split coming into this first split. So that was a huge major change. They also had Coach Spawn kind of being in and out. So they have like, I forgot his name, Swifter or something, I think. So that's a big change as well. So I think it's unfair to like panic and kind of immediately react to this poor performance when I think they're still struggling to find an identity, and we should give them a whole other split to kind of adjust to the changes.
Okay, so the meta change is also part of your argument too. Is like, let's see if they, with a full split of playing on the correct meta that's going to be actually used for the international event, presumably, that they can actually do better. I don't hate the take. I actually think I kind of agree with it too. It's just the downside of it, if they do give another split before making a change, is that if it doesn't go well, you only have summer to figure things out if you're trying to make a push for Worlds, or you just accept as an org, all right, it's going to be a rebuild phase, and we're going to focus on 2026, which isn't historically what I think of when I think of Team Liquid. Typically, it is more about like, yeah, how can we do the best that we can right now? So, yeah, I don't know if anybody else in the call also has thoughts on that, but I don't hate the idea. I also could be down to run back the roster for at least one more split. But if they do poorly, then I think it's kind of trolling if they don't make a change at some point in summer.
I don't think that like this week, this international tournament, I don't think I really changed my opinion of TL or UMT at all. I know that this wasn't the tournament that TL wanted or what anyone else wanted, but it feels like it is just a slightly worse version of the same TL. And I don't think that Impact or UMT or like I don't think anyone really had a great tournament. I think that Yon and Core were probably the two strongest performing members out of all of them. But like, what did we actually learn from TL? Or like what changed about us and TL where I'm going to change my opinion about whether or not I want them to make a change or not based on this tournament? Like, I actually think that's a pretty honest question because it feels like they kind of won LTA in sneaky fashion, but we still know them to be one of the stronger teams. They were one of the favorites heading into the split, and they did so with like UMT playing better as the person that really was struggling. And he goes to this international tournament, and I mean, I don't think that it was just an UMT problem. Just like I don't think that the whole year has just been an UMT problem, right? I think that he is the one that looks bad when things go bad. And there are for sure plays and moments where it is impossible to defend UMT. Like he's not playing well in some of those moments. But I also think that he at times will sack a lot for himself just to go find the other jungler and like set both of them behind in games where that's actually quite good for TL. And he's not getting as much credit for fans for that. He's always played like that. I always feel like he's not gotten a ton of credit for that because it looks flippy. Sometimes it's really good. I don't know. I literally like I can't change my opinion on TL from this tournament within 1 week. And I think that if you were in or out on UMT before, I think that you probably feel the same or leaning more towards maybe being out. But I don't know if I can take a lot away from a week of gameplay. I mean, I was sitting here last week like, hey, what like TL needs more discipline to improve. It's like it's really hard to improve within a week. You kind of have to trust what you have and bring it in the tournament and hope that it shines. It did not for TL. But I don't think I actually learned anything about them throughout the week of play. I really didn't.
I would say something really. Oh,
yeah, go for it.
I find it interesting that your opinion of UMT didn't change. I actually had a higher opinion of him from this tournament and a lot lower opinion of Impact as a result. Personally, because I just noticed that I think beforehand, UMT stood out so much in the previous like split as like an obvious area of issue. But this tournament, he seemed pretty solid, and it just seemed like there's something else going on. And like obviously from your perspective as an analyst and not like a typical Redditor or silver player or something, you're gonna have a different opinion. But from my perspective, I am more just disappointed in Impact, and I think that is where my opinion changed completely. So, you know.
That's fair. I think that Impact for sure, given where he ranks regionally versus how he performed internationally, that was a big difference. Again, I think that TL has been like the swap meta has a big impact on how top laners play, and also the jungler plays around top. It's clear that hurt TL going into this tournament, and I think that given how they performed regionally, UMT for sure like performed better, act much worse. But for me, like UMT was playing so bad in some moments, north that I was kind of able to write it off. And so I thought there were just problems bigger than him, and he was the one that was getting all the blame. So I actually kind of had some sympathy for him in there. But again,
Somebody,
I don't think I learned much about TL.
sure. Somebody in a chat actually I saw made a point that I actually it kind of resonates with me, is that the difficult thing is that this feels like it's Jan's peak right now that we're seeing, and it's almost wasted with the rest of the team just not being able to perform at that level. And imagine a team where Jan has like rocks around him that can act, not to weigh him down, but like, you know, to hold the line for him. It really does seem like we're witnessing something special with Jan individually, but the team just can't keep up with what he's trying to put out. And
How do we know this is Jan's peak? Maybe he's only
true,
halfway to his peak.
he could. This could be gear 4. Maybe he's got a whole new gear ahead of him.
Yeah,
true.
But that is the concern, I would say. Is that, you know, we're because it's so special and so impressive what Jan is doing right now in a region that has struggled to have consistent growth in 80 carries over the last, you know, 5 years. You look at players like Tactical, you look at players like Spawn, where it's like, okay, they have a couple like really flash in the pan great moments, but then they weren't able to like scale that. I think it's really cool to see a player like Jan and even Masu behind him as well having more consistent performances. So yeah, that's where I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with another split, but I do, for Jan's sake and Team Liquid fans' sake, want them to consider making changes if they don't have a great spring or split 2, I suppose.
If they make changes after split 2, I feel like they're really gambling on potentially not making Worlds. Like, let's say they make it to MSI and then they have a disappointing performance. You make a swap. Are you know, you will have made 2 out of 2 international events so far. And I know it's a bit of a meme that in LCS history, teams that had disappointing international performances and then made changes would oftentimes not make Worlds afterwards. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a conversation to be had, is like, is it better to not go to Worlds at all than go to Worlds and just like bomb out of the early state round robin stage or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. There's actually a really good point as well, that they won't have much time after split 2, because I guarantee you, Team Liquid's going to be going to EWC. So if they also do MSI, they're going to have no off time in that, you know, off season period there, right before the summer split would start, or at least very limited time to make change.
Yeah, like I think that with the window of time that at least, like, I can't expect them to make any change for split 2. I think the only change that like I might get excited about is if they went after River or Contracts or UG. I feel like those are the 3 options, but I can't say if any of them would like. They'd really have to change how they play the game with UG. And getting River from 100 Thieves probably would not be cheap. I don't think there's like enough time or money to really make changes at this point, you know? So I just don't think it's like very viable. We didn't see any teams make a change besides Damonte going to Shopify Rebellion, which we actually have a call on later. So,
oh yeah, we missed that bit of news. Yeah, Damonte.
Yeah,
into SR as a coach. Yeah, I mean, that is something I had not thought about, and I'm glad you brought it up, Kangas. Is like, there's just not a lot of time between split 2 and split 3, and split 3 now starts a lot later than split 2 used to start. So it used to be beginning of June, mid-June, you would start your competitive split, and then you would be able to ride that all the way to Worlds. Now you're starting split 2 in the middle of July, towards the end of July. So you just have a very small window in order to like get the roster, you know, have their feet underneath them. And it is tough because I don't think that Team Liquid should probably make changes right now, because I don't think that there's an obvious change that is good. And I know people can just say like, just replace Umpty, but to Cubby's point, with who? You know, this is not, I think many fans will just sometimes think you can just like wave a wand and replace somebody, and it's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And secondly, if you're not going to replace them now, you're probably not replacing them at all this year. The only thing I could see, and I don't know if you can do this in like a 2025 budget strapped LTA, is bringing in like a second jungler and sort of trying them out throughout the course of split 2, and, you know, having backup there and seeing how that works. That's probably the only thing I could think of. I don't know if they have the budget for it, but that would be like an interesting idea.
And also we saw that have some success for the Oysters at first stand. I mean, I think it was really cool having 2 different top laners, Rest and Driver, in a fearless drafting system. If they have different champ pools, that can be a buff for you in a best of series. So maybe there is some credence to that. Maybe that actually could work.
We have a call on that too. I actually have a good take when it comes to that.
Cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think Dr. Professor Sergeant Mr. J that there's a good chance that, you know, if they're not going to make any changes in Split 2, they're probably not going to be making any changes in Split 3. So I don't know if that necessarily means that I am of the opinion they should make changes now, or if I am of the opinion that they shouldn't make changes at all. But like, I don't know if I agree with your take, if only because I don't know if Split 3 will have enough time for them.
Yeah, you know, it's making me not feel the best about their chances in general of anything now.
Anything? I mean, I think there's a good chance they go to MSI, right?
Yeah, I think for sure. I guess it's just like I have had hopes for them, just given their splash at Worlds like the year before, and so I think their expectations just are raised, and maybe I'm just disappointed about that because, yeah, I just want to see them do well personally, and I don't want Umpty to leave. I do like the idea of maybe like trying to try a different jungler at the time just to see if it works and make a decision. The last thing I'll just say is, I mean, you guys usually always say this, but it really depends on how they identify the problem, because I have no idea. Like, they know a lot better, and it could just be like individuals slumping for whatever, and they know that going forward they're going to improve. Like, Impact is boot camping now, and grinding, and Yan is grinding as well. So it could just be like they know it was an individual mistake, and going forward they know that probably will be cleaned up. So I don't know. Yeah.
Very good. Well, hey, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out my girlfriend, because I am a little obligated today to shout her out. shout out guess
Vague,
my cat,
but sure.
Well, she said not to give other reasons. She said just say I'm obligated.
Is it a birthday? I assume it's a birthday.
No. I just was gonna make a joke, but she said don't make that joke. But
because we can sing happy birthday for her right now if you want.
No, I don't think it's her birthday. Shout out my I'm playing this online Survivor game, so shout out my tribe. I hope that I make it past merge, and shout out you guys as always and stuff. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Sweet. Notice that they said I don't think it's their birthday. You should know if it's your girlfriend's
Yeah, no, I
birthday.
did think that was funny. It's like, I don't think it's her birthday. It's like, okay. I'm glad we have some.
Maybe it's a time zone thing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, true. Yeah, it's coming up.
All right. Anyway,
yeah,
we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna mute the Discord and say quick goodbye to Kangas and Cubby while we head into a little video that I've filmed to support our sponsor. So let's go ahead and take a look. This video is brought to you by PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching your favorite esports or sports. So I'm going to show you right now how this works on the app. It's super easy to use. So maybe I like Jojo Pyun at more than 9.5 deaths over the first 3 games of his series. And maybe I believe Mickey X is going to get less than 31 assists. I'll go in and hit finalize lineup, where it'll show me that if both these things end up coming true and I play an entry fee of, let's say, $20, I'm going to end up winning $60. PrizePicks is available in over 40 states, including California and Texas. And if you sign up, use that link below. It's a big thing that you can do to help me. You can use code Travis whenever you make your first lineup of $5 or more. Win or lose, they're going to give you $50. Now, please only choose to play PrizePicks if you can do so responsibly, but doing so and signing up does help my channel very much. And you can actually join the discussion with other TGI viewers in my Discord. We have a PrizePicks channel. If you're trying to get into it, that's a great place to start. So thanks so much to PrizePicks for sponsoring this piece of content. All right, so that was our quick little ad here. I do want to shout out PrizePicks for sponsoring the show and let everybody know that, yeah, we were playing a bunch of PrizePicks stuff in the TGI Discord, which you can join by just going to discord.gg/Travis. There's a PrizePicks channel, and a lot of nice people were in there sort of sharing their wins, their losses, all that type of stuff. So if you're trying to figure out how to play, you don't know how to start, you want to figure stuff out, especially as we get back into the split and all that type of stuff, you can do so over there. Also, I know we're in a break right now, but if you're into NBA or NFL or I don't know what sports or what season we're in, I
March
guess not
Madness
NFL
this week.
Yeah, March Madness.
Ooh.
If you want to do March Madness, that would be great. So either way, thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. All right, we are into our next call here as Cubby goes off enthusiastically, as you can tell, to go get our next viewer, our next caller. I do want to shout out to some folks, including Tamaine with a tier 2 sub. I think maybe one of my only tier 2 subs, but thank you, Tamaine. 27 months. Austin B, Shiny Froky, I believe I got them earlier. Bernie's Left Nut, Skytone SC, South Central Positronics, and jarglyparf. South Central Positronics is a Dark Tower reference, right? I think North Central Positronics. Am I thinking of that, or is it Fallout? It's some apocalyptic company. Either way, thank you to everybody who subbed. We are down to, I'll just say it. we're about a third of what we used to have in subs about 18 months ago, and I think that's just to how far viewership across the board has fallen for League of Legends esports content in North America. But it does make me cherish and relish every single person who sends a Prime sub or a regular sub, etc., or over on YouTube, the people who become members. I really do appreciate all that support, because I would say that the community funded aspects of my business have, I guess that funding has dropped a lot, and that's just kind of the state of everything right now. I understand that maybe heading into recessions and a lot of people unemployed, so I'm not salty about it, but I do just want to shout out everybody who does support, because that stuff is very much appreciated. Yami is here. Yami's here. I believe you were angry in the chat earlier about over the weekend whenever you found out that there was going to be a Fearless for the rest of the year. I remember seeing you in the Discord because you're an active Discord person. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from near Baltimore, Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm calling today about Fearless. As you correctly pointed out, I was not stoked when I saw Riot's announcement. My sort of pithy title for my take is if Riot doesn't care about the competitive aspect of LoL esports, why should I? And the kind of more in-depth version of it is I basically think that this is not the death knell of the competitive integrity of League, but it's a really strong sign that Riot cares a lot more about the entertainment aspect than the actual competitive integrity. And I kind of have some a kind of summaries of why I think that. Basically, first kind of most obvious reason is I think that Fearless causes an obvious hit to player mastery. I know everyone's going to say players should be able to play 10 champions at a professional level, but just time is finite. It's pretty obvious that if you do one thing, or if you're practicing 3 champions a week and scrimming that champion over and over and over again in your 5 block scrims every day or whatever, you're going to be better at that than if you're splitting it across 10 different champions 1 time per day in a scrim block. Which kind of leads into the next point, which is if individual players are less comfortable on their champions, teams are also going to be less comfortable in their comps, just because players aren't going to know their different breakpoints. When they're strong, their teammates aren't going to know how to play around their champions, because of course when you're scrimming and your top laner's playing their 5 games of Ornn or whatever in scrim block, you're also getting used to what your top laner can do on Ornn in a way that you're not going to if your top laner is playing 5 different champions. Same way you're not going to do if your mid laner playing 5 different champions, jungler, same deal. So individual player skill takes a hit. Team kind of understandings of their comps and ability to execute their comp takes a hit. This isn't speculative in my opinion. We've looked at if anyone has watched LCK playoffs, like these are some of the best teams in the world, and you're looking at like some of their comps, and they clearly have no idea how to execute them. It's just like Fiesta Gaming, people kind of making mistakes that you would not see them make in situations if they understood the limits of their champions and understood the limits of their team comps. And I think that kind of talking about playoffs kind of brings me to my next point, which is like, is this really, or kind of bringing me to the next point, which is like, I think that Fearless Draft does place a lot more emphasis on the draft, and people have been highlighting that, like, yeah, it kind of comes down to a coach diff, which on one hand, yeah, like drafting is a big part of the metagame of League, but also, do we want a game that is ultimately supposed to be like a test of player skills to come down to a game being won or lost in draft just because a game being won or lost in draft? And I think we can kind of see like there is some quantitative data pointing to that. Like if you look at the win rates of Blue Side, because some of the, I think it's not just the draft advantage, but it is partially the draft advantage that Blue Side has in Fearless. I think it was something like a 60% win rate at one point, or something crazy. Like I know Blue Side often has like a 1 or 2% win rate, but it was like a crazy high win rate for Blue Side. And that kind of brings me to my.
Are you saying for LCK, or are you saying that globally, or what's the number, or like the sample size?
Yeah, so actually, I believe the stat that I saw was for LCK. It was tweeted by Genji Arnold, and then I went to like check it on Games of Legends, and like he wasn't making it up. It was an accurate stat at the time that he said that.
Okay, because first stand it was like 55% win rate for Red Side, but less games sample size, so you never know. And maybe HLE was just on Red all those games. Sorry to cut you off though. Continue.
No, it's good to call me out if I'm saying something incorrect. Like, please correct me. Yeah, the final thing I was just gonna say is like, and it actually does kind of go to an entertainment point, which is like, I know I was saying like it's bad for competitive integrity, but I think it also does harm the entertainment aspect of League of Legends, because do we really want like pivotal games being decided by draft, and B, just not the highest level of play that a player is capable of putting out? Do we really want to be going into Game 5 in Worlds Finals with players on their 10th best champion kind of running it because they don't know what they're doing?
The answer is yes.
That doesn't sound like an exciting.
So I agree with your concern about this. So I have a lot of opinions here. So one, let's just start with, do we want best of 5 World Series games, Game 5, to be decided by crazy hijinks people not on their best champions? This was an argument that Mark made in an interview, and it's one that I've always kind of agreed with him on, which is that you're inherently, when you do something like Fearless Draft, the level of play is going to decrease over the course of the series. And I don't think it's worth it to probably go into explain why that is, because I think it, like, anybody should be able to just kind of figure it out, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but like, inherently that's the case. Overwhelmingly, the community has decided they don't care. Like, they have decided that they find it more interesting to be like, oh, but then I don't have to see Cassante in Game 5. And so they would rather see a decrease in the level of play in Game 5 than see Cassante in Game 5 for the 5th game or whatever. So that is what the community decided, and I think that's why Riot changed it, because overwhelmingly people were fine with this change. Now, will that change over time? Will people start to see flaws in it if we have a bunch of best of 5s that go to 5 games in Worlds? I don't know. But for the time being, to answer your question, yeah. Like, the community decided that, I think, pretty overwhelmingly. And quite frankly, it wasn't just the community, because from what I understand, and I think they've talked about this publicly, and some of the players have talked about it, like, Riot went and polled the teams and the players, and they agreed with the community on this. Like, they were more fine with like a lower quality play Game 5 than they were with what the alternative was. So that should answer your question. The first thing you talked about was like, hey, this is a competitive integrity issue, and there's kind of a discussion around is this it? A friend of mine, DK, in the chat, who works with 100T, not on the competitive side, but and I also even saw like Cloud9 kind of back him up, the idea that like, hey, they push back on the competitive integrity aspect, right? The argument being, hey, all the players are facing the same situation in these games, and so that is a situation where like there's not an integrity issue. I think, competitive integrity in this situation is like, maybe you can argue if that's the best term or not, but I think the main argument that I would make to people is like, let's extend out, let's say instead of doing best of fives, we did best of sevens, or we did best of tens. There would come a point in time over the course of the series where you end up with people on very strange champions. You'd have really strange comps that are not necessarily tuned and thought of, and everything is optimized and all that stuff. It certainly would be dramatically different in game 10 than it would in game 1. And I say that, obviously we don't do best of 10s, but I say that only because I think, if everyone kind of agree with that, then we should be able to agree that, like, okay, between 1 and 10, things start to shift, right? It's not like between game 1 and game 10, suddenly there's a huge difference. It's like this changes every single game. So we can agree that over time, that the comps and the champ picks and all these things get sort of less optimized and a little bit more bizarre. That is entertaining for a lot of people, and they've decided, and a lot of people have decided, like, hey, this is how I would like to watch competitive League of Legends, and I think that's fine. But I also think, like, the people who are suggesting, and I'm not saying that like DK was saying this or anything like that, that like there's not any situation here where you end up with much more variance in the equation because of the way that teams can only practice so many different comps, so many different lineups, so many different champions as we go further and further down the line. I think it is a little disingenuous to say that like we're not introducing sort of more variance and some more random elements to the game, which I think is what competitive integrity concerns from certain people come out of with all this. So I just want to be honest and earnest on, like, I do think we are choosing an entertainment aspect here over we're going to see players playing at the highest level of play in the most optimized conditions, etc.
I want to hop in, Cubby.
Yeah.
I think you had a point, but I just want to give my 2 cents quick. I think a big part of it is that we have not seen enough of it to truly determine like how good players will look in World's Best of Fives, Game 5. We've had one split of it and then one international event, and this is a brand new thing when historically players have not been training in this type of environment. By the end of the year, my hope is that Worlds will have better quality game 5s if series go that far, and that also it will only get better as the years go on. We are basically saying there is a new skill that is now probably one of the most valuable skills you can have outside of just like baseline understanding the fundamentals of a pro League of Legends game, which is adapting on the fly, being able to play comps that maybe you haven't played this exact comp like more than 2 times in scrims that split. And how do the players adapt on the fly in the game? And that's something that I think having good in-game shot callers will obviously boost for teams. Having players and drafting players that have wide champ pools will always be a buff now, whereas those hadn't been as important in the past. In-game shot calling is always important, but I feel like now more than ever, it is brutally important for teams in late game best of 5 or late or in the series games. So I think that we're seeing like sloppy game 5s because it's so new, but I think that will fix itself as players get more comfortable and get more used to this, as coaches get more used to this, and this becomes the norm because it wasn't the norm. We didn't expect it to be the norm for this year. Now we're being told, nope, it's going to stay for the year. So now it's like, okay, if we are still having these issues by the end of the year, I'll start to put more weight on those arguments. But for right now, I think it's just a natural part of having something new.
Yeah, I see some people in chat.
You're training.
Go ahead, Gabby.
You're just training more so for like breadth, not depth, right? I think competitive integrity is the wrong way to go about it. It's just that it's the same rules. Everyone's playing under the same thing now. It's just that in competition, the depth and like level that you're going to hit in games where it's fearless versus non-fearless, you're going to hit higher ones than non-fearless because like I don't care how you cut it, you only have so much time of the day, if you're going to train like to have 10 champs in your pool versus 20, and there's just a difference in how it goes about, right? And that's just an individual, not even like for what a team's considering, right? You're like, you can't play both sides of Cassante versus Renekton 20 times in the same day anymore because of the new format. So game quality will go down. In terms of like going through some of the bullets you laid out, Yami, I think that a lot of games did end up pretty one in draft, but coaches will get better with that. I think the most valid argument for this is like maybe you want to see game 5s be more competitive and like picks open back up. But I think the big thing for me, I know that like something I actually hope that Riot does for next year, I hope that Split 1 has a unique format. I know that we're adopting Fearless for the entire year, and Fearless is a win. And what I'm suggesting is not to like, oh, let's try a new format in Split 1 and hope that it's so good that we, move on from Fearless and just have that now, and that's great. I actually don't want that to happen. I think Split 1's a great time to actually have fun formats. It's short. If the international tournament's going to be 5 teams, like best of every region, like let's mix it up a bit and like enjoy a shorter novelty split, like as I've kind of like was calling it before. Obviously, it's now Fearless for the rest of the year with the different format. I like that idea from this year, and I hope they do it for next year. I think there are a lot of other fun formats that you can do that might be entertaining for the game that Riot can experiment with. I know that LS
Ultimate
was
Bravery.
tweeting about
Travis already said it.
Iron Man. Yeah, Ultimate Bravery. Probably not that, right? Or like having a game be Nemesis drafted, or doing Fearless except the bands stick. So that's what's Fearless, and like not the picks. Like there are other ways to go about this that could be fun to mix up the format. Because I think that a lot of people are seeing just more champ diversity and is like, oh my God, like it's Fearless, and not realizing that sometimes like in non-Fearless, if you changed up one ban and one first pick, then you might get a game 2 that has 7 out of the 10 champions be different, right? I will kind of miss that. I think that some of the best series of all time that I watched, like Faker's Galio against RNG, I love the fact they banned 3 champs against him every game and got Galio every game and fisted them with it. Like that is such a cool like story and narrative, and we will not see those things and like that iteration of it, but we will still find ways for players to hit greatness under this new format. Everyone's still playing under the same rules. I just hope that Riot like actually attempts to try something new again for Split 1 next year. Was than I think they ever imagined it would or could be, but I actually don't want that to prevent them from trying something new. I think that different formats are actually very fun, especially if you're going to have a split that is shorter for next year. So that is definitely a hope I have.
One of my concerns, and I'm not saying that this is an argument against Fearless, but I think one of the reasons why this benefits Riot is that the previous drafting situation, normal drafts or whatever you want to call it, have we decided on a term for traditional drafts? Is that, I don't know, whatever. Classic. Now there's
how the game was played.
No one does that anymore, right? So now,
played, yeah.
well, I just mean especially on an international level, because the game is not played in best of 3s or best of 5s, right? Outside of like a clash or something. But one of the things that the previous drafting format did, scared draft, feared draft, was it highlighted the balance issues with the game. And I even think at one point in time, I don't know if they changed this later on, but at one point in time had like a public set of metrics or standards that they used to look at if a champion was overpowered. And a percentage chance amount of that was basically like how much is this being picked or banned at pro levels. And I worry a little bit that they no longer have to worry about that, and I also think that means that like the sort of I oftentimes think that things that are banned all the time in competitive play end up being banned all the time in regular play, and like fans on ranked or something like that, and like this was a forcing function for Riot to better balance their game. Because the unfortunate thing about it is how great esports is, it puts a huge spotlight on the game, but it also created a huge spotlight on the flaws that the game had in terms of champion balance. And I worry a little bit that like a side effect of this is like now the balance design, you can just run around with OP champions and it will not be as obvious because no league will be able to highlight how OP they are outside of, oh, this champion gets banned in the beginning, or it's picked, in the beginning, or something along those lines. So I think that is like something that people have not necessarily thought about too much about this.
Theoretically, it
That's
should be
interesting.
easier now for Riot, because Riot's excuse has always been it's hard to balance for both pro play and the casual experience. Well, now they can just get balance for the casual experience. Pro play fixes itself, right? You know, you get one pick with the crazy thing.
An interesting way of looking at it, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I really wonder how that's going to go down, but I you know what, I'm not normally like this kind of jaded person in terms of game balance issues and all that stuff, but I kind of agree with some people who are like, this is solving a problem that Riot has with their balance, right? Like, but it's solving
it definitely hides the problem.
It's a bandage, right? Over, like, why are there so many champions that are must picks or must bans? Why don't we have the diversity in terms of champion presence that Dota has at their internationals? You know, it's always been annoying to me because people who know Kelby comes on the show, Kelby will always be like, haha, again, TI had 89% of heroes picked, and like League has had 7% or something, you know.
But Dota has like less champions, and
but this was the case back when League had a lot less.
Game
They're all
iterations.
broken.
Yeah.
They're all broken. You can find the right games to play the broken ones because they're all broken.
The syndrome problem.
Yeah.
But everything is broken knowing it.
Yeah, true.
ICANN says, for me, it's a advantage of the players not putting in the work to play more champs on their own. It's always meta slaving. Yeah, I think people really rush to blame players for a lot of problems that like are not necessarily theirs. Like, I think in the past there's just a bunch of fucking broken champions in this game, and that's the stuff that the players are going to learn because they've got to learn it. Because if they don't, you know, they can't play it and it gets through a ban or something like that, then the other team can do it. Like, it's, I don't know. I find that to be like an unfair argument. So
I mean, we've seen the kind of damage that like having a player not able to play like the dominant meta champion can do. Like, you had Faker and EasyHoon on Azir way back when, and it was like, he's the best player in the world, he can't play Azir, and it's like terrible for SKT.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone has made it.
Oh, sorry, Yami. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that folks have made interesting points about Fearless.
Yeah. Look, I was concerned about Fearless because I worried that the entertainment issues, you know, the entertainment value was not going to outweigh the other aspects of the way that the game works. And then also that people would start to see things in later games that may, you know, the co-streamers love to be like, oh, my eyes, oh, my head, I can't take this gameplay. What is this draft? I'm melting. Whenever they see something in game that they don't like. And I worried that Fearless would exacerbate that you would see a lot of people start to have their on-stream seizures because they were seeing gameplay that they did not think was competitive enough. And so that didn't end up happening. So I was wrong about a lot of different things around all this. And I think, look, if you're going to make changes to make the viewing experience better and the entertainment experience better, 2025 and probably back in 2024, 2023 are definitely the times to be making that for LoL esports. And so I was wrong about many of these things. And I was also wrong that Riot would make these changes in the middle of the split. But if fans are happy and if this gets people more excited about watching Split 2 and Split 3, then I'm excited for it. And I'm wondering how this will play out once we get to Worlds. Like, will there ever be a moment where people start to freak out?
For sure.
I'm not gonna lie,
there
I'm absolutely rooting for that.
That are super one-sided. Yeah, I feel like we didn't get because people just didn't take Split 1 as seriously. And also, like, there's novelty to it, just seeing different stuff. Like, it's not like you're gonna see a draft that like was terrible, ran back. I don't know. It's just like there's like more new stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no more salty run back drafts. I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah. All right, thanks so much, Yami, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here? Yami?
No specific shout outs. Shout out to my friend Happy Blue Guy, who also listened to the show, and I guess pouring up for traditional draft. I'm gonna miss it, but hopefully I'm wrong, and Fearless will turn out to be the greatest thing to happen to League of Legends, and I'll learn to love it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the
Also,
call. We'll catch you next time.
Petition, we call it Coward's Draft from now on. That's it.
Dude, I will say, I haven't really thought about it until this moment, but like, whoever made the branding decision, maybe it was LS. I know there was some conversation that perhaps he was the one that came up with this concept to call it Fearless Draft. That was like a branding genius move. Like, it sounds so sick that like, yeah, we're doing Fearless this split. Like, imagine if this had been called like rotational draft or something along those lines, or progressive drafting. Like it would. I don't know if it would have sang as well as it did if with people calling it Fearless Draft. It's such a sick way of calling it.
So he's trying to sell the Iron Man draft now, Travis. So
I know.
I feel like that's still decent branding. Match Fearless though. Yeah,
I worry that Disney and Marvel might have some issues with them calling it that. I don't know.
It's not getting on ESPN.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right. We'll grab our next caller. While we're doing that, thank you to jarglyparf Kanoke for the 60 months. Really appreciate it. And then over on YouTube, Slug332 coming through as a member. Hey, low budget LCS just rated us. That's very nice of them. Twitching Mars 13. Thank you so much for the Prime. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things shift over the course of this time. I did like Cubby's idea of doing split one as always a like unique drafting format or unique game format.
That'd be interesting. Also, I want to do a bit here because I've been thinking about it for a bit before Cubby gets back in the call. Hey, Cubby, what are your honest opinions? Show me on camera your honest opinions of Fearless Draft. Okay, I got it.
There you go.
Cool. Good. Nice.
There you go. All right, we either have mistimed or well, I guess it wouldn't be timid, right? Because timid is it how do you pronounce your name?
Mistimed. You had it perfect.
Mistimed. Where are you calling from?
I like that name.
Thank you. I am calling from probably Olympia, Washington.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about roster size in a fearless world.
Okay.
Now that we officially have Fearless running for the rest of the year, then I think that pro teams should be taking a look at what Flying Oysters were doing this past tournament and how they can best expand their current rosters. As the Fearless meta develops and just gets more and more figured out over time, I think having a 6+ player team will be invaluable. I also think that Riot can facilitate this by expanding how many players are allowed on a roster. I guess I'm not actually up to date on what the most recent rules are with that, but I remember back in 2018, it was really cool when Cloud9 was kind of running the league with a 7-person draft, a team. And they then had to go down to 6 at Worlds because there was different rules for international versus what we were running here. And I thought that was a shame because their 7-player squad was awesome. Shout out Golden Glue. And yes, I can go into more detail, but that's my take.
No, I mean I think that's pretty solid. I know you would like to see sort of broader teams. The biggest and immediate concern I have is like, I don't know if we have money for that. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, it was my idea as kind of almost a happy medium, I guess, between having a full second string team and just having a couple extra players. That this would help the ecosystem because we've had a lot of contraction in the league, and this could be a way to keep good players around, as well as help bring up more players from the second tier.
Kangas, let's say
money is a concern for sure.
Kangas, let's say, okay, so Fearless World, you are the GM of a team. You have 70 grand that you can spend. Do you spend it on an additional player in a Fearless situation, or do you spend it on an additional coach or analysts? Because presumably Fearless, you benefit from both in a Fearless world.
Yeah, that actually, framing it that way is interesting. Because at first I was like, You know, I could see the benefit of it. I almost think like the mid-range teams would be looking at like maybe like a Shopify Rebellion, where from my understanding, they might have a budget to look at like a 6th, 7th man for the roster, but they struggle to compete with the top teams. That could be like a buff for them. But yeah, theoretically, you could just get like a positional coach or an analyst instead to help get the players on the same page. The only thing I'd say is
better comp, situational
better
comp
drafting,
stuff.
What have you. The only thing I'd say is that an analyst won't fix the champ pool problem. So if you are building a roster and you know that you're going to have a position with a champ pool deficit, and that's going to be a weak point for your team, that's when you would look at bringing on another player. I can't think of like an example right off the bat, but let's say kind of like what we saw from the Oysters. One top lane plays mostly tanks, the other top lane plays mostly carries, and then you can pivot based on what's been picked already in the draft. But yeah, the budget is the big thing because you can always spend that money somewhere else instead. But if you're, are we still going for that social media engagement's worth it? Because theoretically, now you have that 6-player social media following on your brand.
What social
I got an
media
idea for
following?
that, actually,
are we bringing back old? I think all the social media following players have all mostly left. But
Sign Medios, that's your sixth roster pick.
Yeah.
I actually, I think that if you want to make it really fun with Riot, by the way, just do Fearless draft, but then have the teams get to pick who plays after they draft. Like, how fun would T1 be with Smash and Guma on the roster? Then they get the draft and pick who plays after the draft. Yeah, I feel like that would actually really encourage teams to expand their roster. You would actually be able to like play around with unique player strengths and strategies.
That would be so funny to see like a player get pissed that he got benched, after the draft or something like that. Like he's supposed to draft something and he doesn't want to because it knows that he'll end up, replaced or something.
Yeah. Also, I mean, that I think does bring up more competitive integrity concerns at that point, because then
it's just who's the best 7 or who's the best 6 or 7 that you have. Like, are you going to run a second jungle, second support, second top? Like, this is stuff that teams actually used to do and think about. I mean, think about like Blank and Bengi back in the Faker days. Like, there was actual strategy to this. I think that Fearless, again, if you like, this is a little bit out there, but I think it'd be really, really fun if you got to pick who plays from your roster after you draft. What if you picked like Senna Maokai bot and you have 2 top laners? Like, then you could have Driver play bot Maokai. Maybe that's better for the game, like that'd be kind of crazy.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, like I think you do a lot of really fun stuff with this.
I don't think Riot would ever. If I'm Riot, I do not want there to be more than 5 players on a team. Because
if you're a team, you don't want to pay for more right now.
Well, it's both. I think because also
support all that. Too.
Riot has to support additional players as well, right? Like asset days.
Hey,
you now are creating more content. I'm not saying it's not fun, Cubby.
I think it's banger.
I'm not saying it's not.
I think it's banger, Travis.
Why don't you like the idea, Travis? What the hell?
I don't know. Am I coming through? Maybe the hotel is looping my voice.
Are you anti-fearless? Anti-fun?
I'm saying I think this could be really cool. It's hard for me to imagine it happening in a 2025 landscape because Riot probably does not want to have to pay to fly additional players out, have to pay to do initial asset days with different players or that type of stuff. So I think both the teams and Riot wouldn't want this, and thus, the stake. And then the players themselves are not going to want it because then they're more likely to have to compete with somebody else for their spot. This is kind of like the old tier 2 team situation.
No, I think that in that scenario, like all the players get to win. Actually, like personally, if you're on a team, like if you're a team of 6 or 7. Blippo was talking about that like this past year, right? I mean, there was scenarios that FlyQuest is open about where JoJo would have came and played top, or like Surdy would have been on the team, they would have split games. Like, I think that in Fearless, I mean, if you were on a team and one player has a wheelhouse, another player has another wheelhouse, and you're going to work together to win games, like, I think it's fun to sign up for that project. Just kind of like how the caller thought that 2018 C9 was fun when you had the Swole Bros and then Jensen Blabber, right? So I think that it's something where, like, if we really want to talk about the potential of Fearless in other formats, I think that'd be a fun as hell change. That honestly, like, seeing it split 1 next year too in LCK. Keep in mind they were already using some CL subs like outside of Smash that got games. Like Pungyun is a really like hype mid laner who plays a lot of melees. Like pairing him on a team with a control mage, that could be really fun.
I will
if this was
say,
the rule. Or
I really like it for split one because then teams, it's more likely that they will be figuring out what their roster will be, right? Because here's the thing, I know you said like it would be fun to sign up as a project for a player, but like ultimately, how do these things always go? Eventually, one player gets the spot. You know, like Faker stays on with T1 and EasyHoon goes off to China or something like that. Like
But hey, the Oysters, like they're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, but for how long? Do we think that this is going to last for a long time?
I can imagine with the main, since we are keeping Fearless, yeah. So back to Mistimed's point, I think that, I mean, we're getting a little in the weeds of like this potential, oh, you change who's on the champion after draft. That's a cool concept, but just opening up the potential for teams to have a 10-man roster, a 10-player roster, and then, swap out during a series. You think that's too much? So,
Yeah,
so what would the number be
too much
that
money.
you think is acceptable?
It's too much money.
You don't
I think that you'd have to go
7.
7, okay.
Well, then
Maybe,
if you don't
8,
have to, then it's like, well, like T1 is bringing 10 players to the event. Like, how the fuck can we win? Haha. I mean, I think that you have to. That Riot ended up capping it at 6. I think that it should be 7. But yeah,
7 makes sense to me, and I do think it's such a cool idea specifically because of Fearless. I know teams have done it in the past, but I think that the landscape right now makes the most sense for teams to like seriously be doing this, which is why, I mean, I think the first caller was saying like, ooh, is Team Liquid going to make changes? They could just sign another player if they have the money for it, which is back to Travis's point. It's always down to the budget. But if they have the budget to bring on another player, you might as well, because you can just try them out in series. And then if they're performing incredibly well, just run them in the majority of games.
Yeah, imagine if all these guys had like a tier 2 team they could pull from. That would be, wouldn't that be nice?
I can imagine
would that be?
You're onto
remember
something.
when they all cut their tier 2 programs, Travis, and then all said, "Don't worry, we're gonna stay committed, helping out NA players in the ecosystem." And then only TL and FlyQuest did, and then everyone else just partnered for 0 money, but like it looked good.
Hey, EG did until they left the league, until EG was so committed to tier 2 that they're like, all right, we're getting rid of our tier 2 team. We're going to get rid of our tier 1 team too. That's how committed we are to tier 2. No tier 2 team, we're out. All right.
Oh yeah, that was the final straw for EG. It was that
consistency.
Oh, actually, you know what's we're not going to take a call on, which is a slight tangent. There was an announcement of increased prize pools, Travis.
That was so confusing to me. Why? Yeah. Okay.
It was.
This is a good tangent.
Why is the money going there? Also, B, I will once again bring up what Rainbow Six Siege does, which is when you put money into esports items, they take a cut of that and give it back to grassroots tournaments within the region. I think that is still a great idea of how to actually fund this stuff below tier 1, which does matter in the long haul. Like,
I mean, I would think that's what they would say. They're already doing that. They're just not describing it that way.
It depends on what you sell, because I bet you I don't know what Rainbow Six Siege is selling, but I'm gonna assume it's
like,
more than emotes. Because like
stickers and skins, yeah.
Yeah, skins is different because like emotes from what I saw the reports on like
items though.
Okay, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up the mistimed take, and then let's take a. We never do this, but let's do a no call thing about the because we only have one more caller, so we'll before our last caller we'll just have a conversation about this because I think the price pool thing is interesting. I haven't really talked about it yet, but mistimed.
Yep.
I think that generally speaking, we like your take. But we are worried that budget constraints in 2025 will make it difficult. But if teams are able to work around those budget constraints, I think it's a really cool idea, and I really like it. I continue to wonder if it's better than to have like an extra analyst versus an extra player, but I think it is really neat, and that's a good call, and it's an angle I hadn't thought about yet. So good job.
I think it's such a good idea that Riot should change the rules to support it mistimed.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling. Anything you want to shout out?
A couple things. First of all, a shout out Cubby for maintaining the positive energy this whole episode.
You look great.
Really helping me stay like someone believes in me, you know. But then also I would like to shout out whoever does the music for draft, especially the game 1 and game 2 draft music we had for Stand or all this year or whatever. fucking impeccable. Riot, please drop the album or a YouTube playlist or something. I need those songs. And lastly, real quick, because I know there's a lot of Brandon Sanderson fans, I would really recommend anything by Naomi Novik, fantasy writer. So good. And that's it for me.
Sweet.
Thanks,
I
gents.
try a Naomi Novik book? She did not do Darker or no. Okay, I have not actually read her book yet. There was a book that I read called The Dark Empire. I can't remember. Anyway, but good shout out. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for calling in. We'll catch you next time.
A good one.
Yeah. What did I read?
Hey,
Okay, well, I want to talk about. Well, I should do an ad, and then let's talk about prize pool stuff because I do think it's interesting. You said we don't have a call about it.
No.
Okay. So first off, before we get into that, I am thrilled to get to tell you all about a really cool thing that NZXT is doing. I mentioned this on the previous episode, last week's episode, but Caseathon is officially live now. I was telling you before that it was on its way, but it's now officially live. So the NZXT Caseathon is an ultimate PC case showcase, a lot of cases there, and giveaway event. And it's happening from March 14th to April 4th. And it is a special event designed to highlight NZXT cases, provide expert advice on building a PC, and the coolest part for some of you, offer limited time deals. Throughout the event, there will be prizes, expert interviews, and community engagement opportunities. So they did this on last March 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific. They did a kickoff stream for this. But on March 21st, which is coming up, that is Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific on the NZXT channel, they'll be doing a in-depth look at the features and specs of all the latest NZXT cases with Kevin, their senior product manager. They'll be doing a Q&A with Jules, who's a technical support maestro, on March 28th. And then they'll be doing business and case selection with a enterprise sales representative on April 4th at 10 a.m. So these are all happening there. But the thing that many of you might be interested in knowing is that you can earn their loyalty points, Poochie points is what they call it, from tuning in if you're a member of the NZXT Club. And there's a bunch of things you can get there for doing this. And then, they're doing a bunch of different special promotions and giveaways. This is all over on the NZXT Twitch channel, so if you want to give them a follow, there's a chance for you to get exclusive discounts and giveaways and all that stuff. In fact, I believe some of the discounts may be live right now over on Amazon. Regardless, please go check out NZXT. If you do end up purchasing something through them, please do me a favor and use my code, which is Travis5 when you check out. That lets them know that we sent you, and it also stacks often with their sales. I don't know if it's stacking with these, but I believe it probably does. And we also have a link, which is nzxt.co/Travis. You can also click that link in the description if you're watching after the fact over on YouTube. So thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show, and congratulations to them on their Caseathon event going on between now and April 4th. All right. Papa Smithy says, wow, what a coincidence. I also love NZXT. Now, I'm sure Papa Smithy authentically loves NZXT. Worth pointing out for FTC considerations that FlyQuest also sponsored by NZXT. All right. So quick discussion. Why the fuck did Riot increase prize pools?
Because they wanted to put a really nice bikini on an aging lady.
Okay.
What?
I don't know what just happened. That was
like,
not the answer I was expecting.
That's what it feels like. I don't know. It's like, how can we make this tournament sexier? Increase the prize pool. Like what? Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, what a way to make the tournament sexier,
Yeah, it's one way to do it.
Yeah.
I hadn't even heard about that. I must have missed this news.
Okay, so
what's
it's easy to miss because they did this in an interview with Daily Esports, which I believe is a Korean outlet. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe it happened at the press conference. Other articles are claiming that this happened during an interview, but it might. So it's hard to tell if it was an interview or if it was part of the press conference or something. But they announced that they are switching. I think there was a Reddit thread that said what the former things were. But for Worlds, they're more than doubling the prize pool to 2.25 million. In which was what it was previously. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this. This article is perhaps a little confusing. Okay, so they've announced a $5 million prize pool for the League of Legends World Championship in 2025, which is more than double the 2.25 prize pool from 2024. And that this could go further because they have like bonuses and stuff related to merch revenues that could increase team winnings even further. And I believe they also increased, from my understanding, the prize pool for MSI, and they obviously added, because it didn't exist previously, the first stand prize pool, which they added to 1 million. So, look, I think for a long time that the league ecosystem has had smaller prize pools, especially for its international events, than its other esports titles. The thing that's confusing to me is like, there's not too many other esports titles left anymore. Like the whole esports industry has kind of gone a little sideways. A lot of their competitors on the esports front have left. One of the only competitors they have is their own game, which is Valorant. And I feel like for the most part, people were not, like, unlike the Fearless thing, for instance, or Hextech Chess, it did not seem like there was a huge outcry about the prize pool situation. And it's very strange to me because I'm like, I kind of would rather have some of this. I guess an argument you could make is salaries have gone down, and thus having a bigger price pool offsets, you're now more in line with other situations where, like, previously the argument for a lower price pool was like, well, salaries are very high for league players, so they don't know what the cut is.
It depends on the cut in the contract, and the more that you argue this, Travis, the more that you're making my amount of actually more.
Well, you're kind of cutting in and out, so I don't know what I'm making for you. What is it?
Oh, well, the cut. We don't know what the cut is of the prize pool that would, like, because players sign contracts with orgs. Some orgs take more of a cut than others, right?
In League,
so
I'm pretty confident that there was not really a prize pool cut after like 2014 or 2015. Maybe some of the teams are putting that stuff back in, but that was not very common at the highest levels.
Okay, well, I mean, that's nice, but again, I'm with you in the sense that, like, I feel like prize pool was kind of, a measuring contest for a little bit between Dota and other esports, especially Dota, because that was like their biggest selling point. And I think that the money put elsewhere, like if it meant that we had a double elimination bracket with that money because we were able to pay for more production days, like a venue, I would much rather have that than a bigger prize pool. That is a really big chunk of money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the venues and all that stuff. I don't know if you can add double elimination for like $2 million. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you do, but
I mean, I think
I fan wise, I think it's worth saying that, like, that money being spent, like, prize pool doesn't enhance the fan experience. It's nice for the teams and players, but like, it kind of felt like a random announcement. What we're getting to.
I wonder if I don't get interviews with the leadership over at Riot anymore. Though arguably I haven't asked for it a little bit, but I wonder if part of this is to try to force more competitive. Okay, so over in Valorant, they rev share differently than they used to in League. For a long time in League, basically everybody got the same rev share in their leagues, and that was just the way it worked. In Valorant, they used a formula which was like, okay, being in the league gives you a portion of it, but also hitting goals around content and engagement and all that stuff gave you some. And then there were also competitive goals as well that would give you some. So I guess maybe this could be the way in which they are deploying that, rather than making it sort of like an obfuscated bonus that goes to teams based off rev share. They're just like, fuck it. Yeah, like now you have more incentive to perform better as an organization. The thing, though, you know, as I said, and DK was just talking about this as well in the chat from 100T, is that like the orgs don't really see any of this money. And like, as much as Reddit and Twitter likes to complain otherwise or claim otherwise, I don't think that pro players were like improperly incentivized to compete and perform. Like, I think pro players usually are trying their best and pushing themselves and all that type of stuff. So I don't really understand what the goals are with this prize pool increase. It is a cool thing. I'm happy for it, but it does seem very much at odds with basically budget cuts we're seeing everywhere else.
T1 went to Riot and said, "Hey, we want to make more money." So like, cool, we'll just increase the prize pool.
But that's
for
why, yeah, it must have been the players though, because that's what it means. I don't think orgs usually get to see any of this, right?
And I mean, they buff Yone. Maybe it's a cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a button last year at Worlds. You guys hear about the button? Production could press it anytime T1 was losing, and it gave them a 10% damage buff.
Oh, really?
Didn't hear about that.
I saw that
That's
on
pretty-
Reddit somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's real.
Damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
Riot Caster talking about 10% damage buff. Killing headline.
I don't know. Okay, well,
it is random. I mean, I agree that I would rather it go. I feel like there's other places it could go, but it's also a fairly like. Is anybody going to complain about the prize pool going up? Right? It's like a safe place to put a budget if budget did go up, and I wonder how much of that could potentially be like. I don't know if things like the faker skin sales and stuff like that contributes towards this, or like what their internal budget looks like. Maybe they just like made enough off of esports stuff last year that went towards the esports budget.
Yeah,
this is
but
all
what if you put it
but like
towards your region
behind the scenes.
So they could do like more live events or something like that, so that, you know, LTA was not like there's so okay. It's tough because you're okay. What can you actually do if you divide 2 million up across 5 different regions? Like then each region is not getting, you know, they're getting like 400K or whatever. Like, are they actually able to do an event for that? I don't know, but like it just, you're right that it is a safe place. Nobody's going to complain about it, but nobody's going to complain about them like deploying that to increase like the broadcast for all their regional leagues or something. It
feel like they
feels
get evenly distributed, right? Because like otherwise, LTA needs help, or like, you know, LEC needs help, and then people will complain like, oh well, that money's going towards this one region, and not
but nobody's going to know that they funnel an extra 2 million to something. And again, they could evenly distribute it. You know, like giving 400 grand to each, you know, of these regions could be pretty good. Or I don't know, giving, what does this mean, like 50K to every team that is in your league or something? I guess that doesn't work because there's like 20. I don't know what the math is, but like it feels random. And in a league or in an ecosystem where like the best teams seem to already be in a pretty good place, like it feels random to be like, and here's some more money. So I just don't. I wish I understood the philosophy a little bit more. And it's weird that there was no article or anything like this about their website on this website. They like
also like you look at the trend over the last year plus, it's been, you know, about consolidation and cuts. And one of the first things that we get about spending is like, oh yeah, the prize pool is like sexier now. That kind of felt weird as well.
So
I like the way
I haven't read whatever the interview was. I wonder if this is
it wasn't just that like
kind of came up, because like that feels like something that would be in their Worlds primer. Like that's going to be a big like item, like big bullet point on whatever their Worlds primer is, more close to that. They're not going to talk about that yet because first is going to be MSI, then Worlds. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was just something that like kind of slipped out and maybe was meant to be more of a big announcement later.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely felt like an interview that was like pretty casual, and like this tidbit of news was in it, and it was like the one substantial thing that it seemed to like come out from the, because I mean, like there were things talked about in terms of like working on the ecosystem and improving it, but this is like the one piece where like we can actually run with.
Yeah.
Also, Cubby, I hope you know the chat's now calling it the bikini budget. So you did that. That's you.
I mean, I think it's an appropriate metaphor. That's all I'm gonna say. We made it sexier. I'm not sure why. You know, that's kind of how I view it.
Or what if they spent this money? I mean, I guess the last thing I would say is like they could have also spent this on like marketing stuff. You know, like imagine if they invested
like
a shit ton of money into documentaries around their international events like they used to. I mean, I remember you can't even find it now, but because they had to take it down because I think they were paying chain smokers like royalty fees for using their music or whatever. But like the old documentary that they did with like 5 of the different players, one of them which I think was Bjergsen, around Worlds back in 2014 or something like that. Like
that stuff was amazing.
Yeah. Mike says, "Why does everything come back to money for Travis over on YouTube?" And I'm gonna be honest, it all comes back to money for everyone, especially in League eSports right now. Yeah, I understand that this is kind of like a boring topic for people, or they get annoyed that we talk about money and budget and stuff so much on the show. But like, I do that because I see a lot of changes that happen in the ecosystem that people are very unhappy about, and like they just kind of get frustrated in general. And I bring it up so often on the show because I'm like, I want people to understand sort of what the reason is behind a lot of these different things. So we could just get on the show and be like, this is bad, they should do this instead or whatever. But it's like, you kind of have to have the context of what's happening in the ecosystem right now to be able to talk about it. So all right, let's get our final caller in here. We've made them wait while we've amped on all this stuff for a bit. Thank you to EMBW for 2 years. Hope you're doing well. Sparts, thank you for the 22 months. And over on YouTube, I don't know if I got them yet. I think I shouted them out. But Slug332, thank you for becoming a member. We do really appreciate all our YouTube members. If you aren't currently a member, you can become a member on YouTube for as little as $2.99. You get to watch a wedding speech that I gave, but perhaps more interesting to all of you, you get to make suggestions on videos that I'll do that are members exclusive. Oftentimes I'm a little bit more candid or say kind of crazier stuff than I do on the main channel because I know that it's not going to get quoted and stuck on Reddit. So you can go do that over on YouTube. There's just a join button, I believe, that you can click, and that's how that works. We have our last caller of the night, jarglyparf, who I believe subbed earlier tonight. Jarglypuff, where are you calling from?
Valencia, California.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So with Damonte joining Shopify Rebellion for this upcoming split, it's looking like he could maybe strengthen up the team a bit, specifically the mid-jungle duo.
The mid-jungle duo. Okay. And you're saying this is his role as a coach?
Yeah, as his role as a coach.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on... Oh, yeah. Well, I guess we should say for context, for people who don't know, it was announced this week, I believe, that Damonte would be leaving FlyQuest. I think he flipped them the middle finger as they kicked his ass out the front door and said, "You're out of this Fly fam." And he has joined Shopify Rebellion because he's rebelling against the family that has disowned him. But anyway, so he's joining in that role. Now I think it's like a promotion. Like he got maybe not technically a promotion, but he got a higher level position over at Shopify. So go ahead and expand a little bit, jarglyparf, on your take.
So I mean, obviously, Damonte was with Contracts and Palafox when they made that big run at Worlds, beating G2 and all of that. I think that him specifically being back with them would bring back a lot of the morale, because whenever I think of Damonte, he's always got a smile on his face, always, giving positive reinforcements to all the guys on whatever team he's on. And also with him being a former mid laner, I think could really help out Palafox right now, because, I mean, I'm going to be honest, he hasn't been looking the greatest out there, but I definitely think, with that extra, opinion in there, could definitely help out the team.
I mean, I'll go so far as to say Palafox hasn't looked great since he was being coached by Damonte, or since Damonte was at least part of the coaching staff working with Palafox, however you want to put that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think Damonte will still, you said he's always smiling no matter what team he's on. Do you think that will happen even at Shopify?
I hope so, even though, I'm not even a fan of Shopify. I specifically do like Damonte, Palafox, and Contracts, though. So, like, I'm hoping they at least, get a better result this split compared to what happened last split.
And this is not, to our knowledge, Cubby, this was not like a situation where Shopify let another player go, right? Or another coach go, I mean?
Well, I mean, Turtle retired, so maybe some budget opened up, but no, they just added.
Oh,
Damonte,
that
yeah.
honestly, that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why I forgot about that.
From my
I
understanding,
guess
Turtle
Turtle was,
was
like,
helping or sometimes working with the
was
team on that
coaching.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So March 12th, I think Wild Turtle announced that he was retiring, and March 14th, Damonte joined. So that was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And also, I will
Yeah.
say, Damonte, despite just his history with contracts and Palafox, when I look at this roster, one of the concerns that I had was morale and vibes. Like, if things start going poorly, who's going to be the one to help save mental? I think Damonte is the perfect type of coach to have on coaching staff for specifically that. Yes, he's also been a pro player, so we can help out Palafox on laning and things like that in a Fearless system. But just being the vibes coach. I mean, we heard kind of the opposite with Team Liquid and Spawn, where it's like sometimes you need a bad guy in the room for everyone to unite against, and that was kind of what Spawn was saying he was for the team.
Team was
but
the
I
good
think
guy.
Damonte is the opposite, where he's the positive guy. What was that, Cubby? I couldn't hear you.
Good
We
guy,
lost him.
So you have the good and the bad.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I am of the opinion. I mean, I continue to express my take. They've not convinced me otherwise that Shopify is the new Immortals. So I don't. I don't feel like Damonte is going to be able to change anything for them, because I think that they just sort of can't get their act together, and it's not going to change. And I don't expect this to do anything for them, even though I'm a big Damonte fan. So,
did Shopify win games though?
They won a series,
playoffs,
right?
no?
They won one.
I feel like that's better than Immortals did their entire existence.
Immortals would win random, like all the bottom teams have almost always had
made playoffs.
Yeah. Like
yeah.
there were always random
One
times in
time.
which the bottom teams would do something interesting and make people believe in them for 5 seconds. But
Yeah, Immortals
Shopify's
made
yet to make
playoffs.
playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair.
yeah,
They've been how long have they been in the league? Last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Splits.
Yeah.
TSM.
There's something very funny about Shopify and this team. It was a clip. They have a piece on their YouTube that I watched, which is kind of rare for me. I don't absorb all team content, but it was after their week 1 loss, and I'm gonna blank on who the leader is. I think it's like CFO or his tag. Someone was talking with the team, and he pretty much looked at the team, and it's in the clip. It's in the video. He's like, "Hey, you guys have all won before. We're gonna figure out how to win together again." And I that statement, just for me, really sticks out for how the Shopify team was built, and also contributes to getting Tanner in the room as well, right? These guys won with Tanner before. This has to this is gonna help, right? I say this. I think that Tanner and Damonte will be a help. I think very highly of him, but I that just sticks out so much to me, because I really feel like that's just the theory behind how this team came together. Most people have worked with Revan before on the roster. I think that honestly, where Damonte might be valuable is just be having an outside voice again. I think everyone that Revan's had within that org, he's worked with before Shopify Rebellion. A lot of XC9 folks in there, and also he spent some time in LATAM. So maybe that helps, but I can't get over the fact that I really feel like Shopify looked at the players on paper, said, "You guys have won before. Let's put these guys together and we can do it again." I just haven't really bought into what they've cooked yet. So I'm wondering if Damonte can help get them more out of the pieces and reclaim some of where they were at. I think that Damonte he's in a unique position where he's an adult that has done this before professionally and can speak their language, but he's really just helping to try and get more out of the people around him. And it feels like he's done that the places that he's been so far. So we'll see if he can do that again with a couple of familiar pieces as well. I just can't get over the logic of Shopify Rebellion, where it's I feel like all the moves that they've made, I don't know exactly what is behind it, but that just really sticks out to me when you have the top-down guy being you guys have won before, we're going to figure out how to do it again as a crew. And this decision just kind of adds into the mix of that, and I just want to see them have a little bit more of an identity than maybe reclaiming former glory, or for new glory. It feels like the team's kind of missing a lot So
I feel like
yeah.
that mentality is just like how it was back in. I mean, I mainly watched League from like 2015 to like 2020-ish. And it was mainly like the all veteran rosters that would just kind of like, especially the one that
CLG.
sticks out to me. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna
Yeah.
say CLG, with the Bud Light Ace, you know.
Oh God, don't remind me, man.
But
I mean,
yeah,
it's not that bad, but they
yeah.
did play with 3 losing lanes and didn't do well in split 1. So we'll see if that's better this next split.
Well, may I ask? First off, love the name jarglyparf. But second of all, are you a Shopify fan?
Not really, honestly. I just am a big fan of, or I was a fan of NRG, but you know they dipped out too.
True.
So
Honestly, don't
mainly
become a
fans
fan of any team. You don't know how long they're
Yeah.
going to be here for.
You
That's
were
the
a
only
CLG
safe
fan
method.
Before, it's
Be a fan of
I've
players,
been,
not teams. Teams will
I've been
betray
a
you.
big fan of C9 mainly since I started watching, but hopefully they don't leave because if then
Okay.
it's just
You never
kinda-
know. In
you're done
2025,
for.
everyone you know can leave you. Trust no one.
Even coward draft can leave you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for the call. Hopefully, Damonte does end up working miracles over at Shopify. And anything that you want to shout out?
Yeah. I mean, shout out you guys. I've been listening to the show since like I don't know, probably 2016-ish, first time caller. So it was really fun. Enjoyed talking to you guys, and also shout out F1 season starting up again. The last race was a banger.
Thanks for
but
being
that's
an
it.
11-month sub as well, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of
We'll
course.
catch you another time. Hopefully, you call in again in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Everyone.
Travis, you just got a long-time listener, first-time caller right there.
I know,
That's
I
cool.
know. It still happens in 2025. Maybe not everyone will leave me. All right. Joshua Lippelman, thank you for the $10 of super chats over there. Says, my brother is doing Ultimate Bravery and just messaged me that he's playing Rod of Ages Aatrox support. Someone stop this man. Sparks, thank you for the 22 months over on Twitch. That is the show, everybody. Thank you, Kangas, for stepping in somewhat last minute. I appreciate it. We're going to do shout-outs here. Cubby, first off, happy birthday. I know it's not yet, but it's coming up, so happy birthday. What do you want to plug? What do you want to do?
It'll be closer to the next episode if we do one this upcoming week. But yeah, the shout out to everyone for it's nice to be able to do this remotely. Hopefully the quality is still good. Thought we had some fun calls tonight. Thanks for joining us, Steve. And shout out to the OQs, which was a lot of fun to co-stream. We had 10 teams compete for one spot left over this past weekend at the Tempest, and we have, I think, our 10 teams decided. And NACL starts this upcoming Tuesday, and LPL English, the unofficial LPL English broadcast, that starts with LPL coverage this upcoming weekend as well. So definitely support those two projects, which may or may not be involved in, but regardless, a lot of good people and good things to support going on there. So yeah.
When do we know who's like actually competing in an ACL?
So I know that we didn't take any calls about near airport.
Yeah.
I will just say that so far from everything I've heard, it does seem like they plan on competing, which is great.
That's awesome.
In terms of, that's not a confirm nor deny, but
yeah,
I
you never know with Peter Pang.
Yeah. I haven't heard others. I've heard they want to compete.
Whoopley in chat says soon TM. So.
Near airports,
yeah,
chances of competing change as often as the tariffs that we have on Canada these days. So, yeah. Sorry, Covey. Anything else you wanted to add? I cut you off.
No, it's fine. I had nothing else. Thanks for hanging with me tonight, chat, and I had fun tonight, guys.
Yeah, this was fun. Kangas, how about yourself? What do you want to shout out, plug? What's going on?
Shout out everybody for tuning in. Also shout out my other podcast that I'm on, League Rundown. You can check us out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get other podcasts. But special shout out to Cubby for maintaining such positive energy this entire episode. I mean, man, just the visual presence that he's brought has been inspiring for me as on camera talent.
What's ironic
is just gonna freeze.
I do think that this is also, even besides the joke picture that we have, also the most positive Cubby has been on the show in a while. So people keep saying this joke, and I keep just being like, yeah, you know what? I do agree. Cubby was more positive on this. Oh, right. It's the goddamn picture.
I feel like I've been more positive for like the past month. But
no, you haven't. You haven't. I'm just giving you
fine,
shit.
You know?
We've been more positive.
Good
on
ideas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea of you get to pick who plays after the draft. That's fun with subs.
Yeah.
Split one, new format next year again. I think that's fun. It's fun to talk about fun
The vibes have been better. Well, other than Team Liquid flunking out, the vibes have been better. I think recently the Hextech Chester shit is over. Like the Riot decided to do the Fearless draft. Like I think, even if there is a bit of a cloud over esports in general as an industry these days, it has been a little bit of sun has peeked out in the past couple of weeks. So it's been nice to do the shows. But again, thanks Kangas for coming on. What shout outs do I have for everybody? I'm going to be at MXP Santa Clara. I always want to say Santa Ana. Santa Clara next month. If you want to come play Magic the Gathering with me, that'll be really fun. Please go check it out. I think that's it. I should have a cool video going up on the channel, or maybe even a couple of cool videos going up on the channel this week, so stay tuned to that. I know it's been kind of a quiet time as I have not been on site in Korea doing any kind of coverage there. Please become a member of the YouTube channel. You can do so for just $2.99 a month, and you get access to exclusive videos. Go watch my wedding speech, because I'm particularly proud of that. I think it was really fun. But other than that, thanks everyone for watching. We will see you all next time, hopefully on Monday. I know it's been kind of crazy, but Monday, consistent time, back on next week. So see you all then.